The Forsaken Heir. Previous episodes are available on the playlist. You can also visit our website for your favorite stories. A link is provided in the video description. Episode 60. During this period of time, she has been very painful every night, because at night, the feeling of stomach discomfort will come, more intense and more frequent. So it's impossible to get a good night's sleep at night. Generally speaking, she will wake up with pain in 1 or 2 hours, and then take a pack of Kobayashi Vicin and then sleep. After sleeping for 1 or 2 hours, she will wake up again, and so on. After such a night, it is almost no different from just after a battle, which consumes a lot of physical strength and energy. However, this night, she finally realized the happiness of waking up naturally after sleeping. From going to bed at 10 o'clock in the evening to 8:30 in the morning the next morning, Sarah didn't feel any discomfort. At 8:30, after she woke up, she got up from the bed, only then did she feel a little discomfort in her stomach again. She couldn't help but marvel, but she didn't expect that a small packet of JX Vicin could have such a good effect. The effect lasted for almost 20 hours. You know, the same small packet of Kobayashi Vicin can only last about 2 hours. Moreover, the 2-hour medicinal effect of Kobayashi's Vicin can only be relieved to a certain extent, not completely, but the 20-hour medicinal effect of JX Vicin is completely relieved. In this comparison, Kobayashi's Vicin is too far behind JX's Vicin. Sarah was shocked, but also looking forward to it. She could seize the time to get a bit of JX Vicin, and take advantage of her stomach not feeling uncomfortable, so she rushed to take it first. However, she only remembered at this time that JX Pharmaceutical only sent a packet of samples to August. Sarah couldn't help but mutter to herself, "What kind of stingy company is this JX Pharmaceutical? They wanted to find me for the endorsement of their medicines, but only gave a small package of samples? Excessive. Give me a box anyway. It's really annoying." After speaking, she immediately took out her mobile phone and called August. "August, that JX Vicin, is it on the market now? Where can I buy it?" August said, "The information they gave me said that they have now obtained the approval to start mass production, but they did not go on sale immediately, saying that they will not promote the listing until the endorsement is finalized." "Oh, it's so annoying." Sarah said, "You call them and say that I am willing to endorse this medicine, but the premise is that they must immediately find a way to send me some more." August exclaimed, "Sarah, are you really going to endorse this medicine? To be honest, this medicine does not fit your image positioning." Sarah asked, "Why doesn't it meet? Can't I endorse stomach medicine?" August hurriedly said, "You can endorse, but not endorsement. Listen to the name, JX Vicin, it needs more ground, and someone like you, a big star who goes internationally. Being together, it's completely soiled, it doesn't match your style." Sarah said angrily, "Don't understand nonsense. This name is so downgrading. Didn't I tell you? JX means 9 days, do you know that it is written in the poem of a great man, but it can go to 9 days? To capture the moon, you can go to the 5 oceans to catch turtles. The name JX can be said to have the essence of our culture. Also, the effect of this medicine is so good. It is the best stomach medicine I have personally experienced. It is such a good thing. Of course, I am willing to endorse and recommend such good things to the people of the whole country and the world. Little contribution from me. August said, okay, I will contact this pharmaceutical company and ask them to prepare more samples, and then I will talk to them about the endorsement contract. When August called Liang, he was supervising the production of JX Vicin at JX Pharmaceutical. Now, the entire production experience of JX Pharmaceutical is concentrated on one medicine of JX Vicin. Because the efficacy of the drug is so good, Liang is convinced that after the drug is marketed, it will quickly spread all over the country, and even the world. Therefore, in accordance with Charlie's requirements, he started production at full capacity to prepare for the official listing. After receiving August's call, Liang smiled and asked, Ms. August, don't know how Ms. Sarah is thinking about endorsement? August said, that's the case, Mr. Liang, we, Sarah, have never endorsed any medicine before. The reason why we agreed to endorse your stomach powder is really because she took this medicine personally. I feel that the effect of this medicine is very good. Okay, so, our Miss Sarah decided to endorse your products. The call is to tell you the details of the specific cooperation. Liang was overjoyed and hurriedly said, Ms. August, please say. August said, Ms. Sarah's endorsement fee is 80 million, and the endorsement is valid for 3 years. During these 3 years, she can shoot 2 commercials for your company, a print commercial and 1 TV commercial every year, and at the same time, she can attend an event for the company. Liang exclaimed, 80 million? Is this not a bit too expensive? August said, expensive? This price is already on the market last year. Some time ago, an automobile company gave Sarah 130 million in endorsement fees, but Sarah did not accept it. Liang was secretly speechless, but he also knew that Sarah was an international star and had a great reputation. She was definitely a leader in China, so the price was more expensive and it should be normal. Although 80 million is a lot, it is really nothing to the current JX Pharmaceutical. So he opened his mouth and said, 80 million is not a problem, but we hope that Miss Sarah can come to Oris Hill to sign a contract with us as soon as possible. In addition, our advertising shooting is best done in Oris Hill. It's no problem. August said, but I have an unrelenting request. I wonder if I can trouble Mr. Liang and let you send us the sample by the fastest express delivery? Liang hurriedly said, I'm sorry Ms. August, our stomach powder has not been officially listed yet, so according to the regulations, we cannot leak the goods in advance. The small package that was mailed to you before is an exception. August said in dissatisfaction, Mr. Liang, we are going to cooperate in depth soon. Why are you still so rigid? Miss Sarah was filming in the United States some time ago. There was a spleen and stomach disorder. Recently, there has been no improvement. After the stomach was loosened, it really changed a lot, so she entrusted me to negotiate with you some more medicines to help her recover as soon as possible. Liang said helplessly, I'm so sorry, Ms. August, this matter was stipulated by our boss. At the beginning, we encountered other pharmaceutical companies trying to snatch our prescriptions. So we were also very cautious about this, and also it is not impossible to disobey our boss, otherwise I won't have to do it as the general manager. Since Ms. Sarah has promised to endorse our JX Vicen, and she really needs this medicine, we can ask her to come to Oris Hill as soon as possible, so that we can provide her with enough while we cooperate. By the way, please tell Miss Sarah, our stomach powder is very effective. If Miss Sarah only has an imbalance in the stomach, I believe it will be completely cured after 3 days of taking the medicine. When Liang sent the intention of cooperation to Sarah's agent, he didn't know the true details of Sarah. Like all ordinary people on the market, he thought that Sarah was a popular star, but he didn't know that Sarah was from a famous family. There is a very interesting phenomenon in the entertainment industry. The more the people with strong background, the more they like to pack themselves into a very ordinary grassroots background, and those with no background, on the contrary, like to pack themselves in various ways and render themselves as big players. He came from a family, as if it could make people look up high. In fact, Sarah is the one with the strongest background in the entire domestic entertainment industry. Therefore, Sarah is also very self-disciplined in the industry, never spreading any scandals, let alone doing anything that would damage her reputation. Other celebrities usually take over jobs and endorsements everywhere, and no matter what they are asked to endorse, they can sign immediately as long as they give money. However, Sarah is a stranger, she rarely accepts advertising endorsements. The reason why she rarely picks up is that she is not short of money on the one hand, and on the other hand, because celebrity endorsement products often have rollover accidents, she is very cautious about this. The products she endorsed are very few, and most of them are virtual products of large companies. For example, some time ago, she signed a spokesperson for YouTube and a promotion ambassador for WeChat. However, some companies that produce and sell physical products pay a lot of money. She is offered an endorsement, she generally will not accept it. The reason for not accepting it is because she doesn't want fans to blindly buy the products they endorse because they like her. Otherwise, if there is something wrong with the product, it is their own responsibility. Once, a famous crosstalk actor endorsed a weight loss product, which was later defined as counterfeit. There is also a famous martial arts actor who endorsed a shampoo for preventing hair loss. As a result, the media broke the news that this shampoo contains carcinogens. Such things are emerging in the entertainment industry endlessly, so Sarah is also very cautious, and she does not lack money, so she is not very interested in endorsements. But this time, JX Vicen gave her a very different feeling. First of all, it is really effective. The effect is much stronger than any stomach medicine she has ever taken. Compared with it, the online celebrity product Kobayashi Vicen is nothing short of it. The difference is more than 10 times. Secondly, JX Vicen is an ancient Chinese prescription excavated from China, which is very respected by Sarah. In recent years, most people are deliberately discrediting traditional medicine, and there are also many people who bluff and deceive under the banner of traditional medicine, who are truly willing to respect traditional medicine and promote traditional medicine. In addition, Sarah herself is also a very patriotic female star. She knows that many Japanese and Korean pharmaceutical companies are madly digging out ancient Chinese prescriptions. She is also quite indignant about this, and she has a hatred of domestic pharmaceutical companies. The feeling of steel. But now, she appreciates JX Pharmaceutical, the parent company of JX Vicen, and even regards this company as a hope for the development of traditional medicine. For these reasons, she had the decision to endorse JX Vicen in her heart. In addition, there is a very key reason, because she urgently needs more JX Vicen now. In her eyes, the only medicine that can cure her spleen and stomach irregularities now is JX Vicen. Therefore, after hearing August's feedback, she immediately made a decision and went to Oris Hill early next morning. When Sarah set off to Oris Hill, Charlie happened to ride a battery car to the gym. Today is Aoxu's quarter-final battle. She will face Brazil's Joanna, the third seed of this competition. The two will determine a player who can stand up to the top 4 in today's game. If Aoxu is able to break through all the way, then after she wins today's game, she will have to play another 4 in 2. If 4 wins and 2 wins, then she can go to the finals. With full play, there are only 3 games left from the championship. Therefore, Charlie decided not to miss Aoxu's every game in the future, and must see her win the championship with his own eyes. On the way, Charlie took a taxi to the gymnasium. Liang called him and said, "Master, I just received a call. The popular actress Sarah and her agent are ready to take off to Oris Hill. The plane will land in Oris Hill in an hour and 40 minutes. I have arranged a convoy to pick up the plane from the airport. First, I invite them to visit JX Pharmaceutical. Do you want to come?" Charlie said, "I won't come there anymore. Now I'm going to watch Aoxu's game. Entertain them yourself." Liang asked again, "I plan to arrange for them to eat in Shangri-La at night, and then arrange them to stay in Shangri-La Hotel. Do you think there is a problem?" "If there is no problem, I will call Mr. Isaac." Charlie said, "I have no problem, let Isaac arrange this matter." "Then Master, are you coming back tonight?" Charlie suddenly thought of his wife Claire, so he said, "By the way, my wife is a big fan of Sarah, I will take her with me tonight, but you should not reveal my identity to Sarah. I met at the dinner table. Just say that I am one of your medical consultants, so that my wife will not be suspicious." "Okay Master, I see." After Charlie hung up the phone, he called his wife Claire again. Claire was busy working in the company at this time. When she received a call from Charlie, she smiled and asked, "Husband, what can I do if you call me during working hours?" Charlie rarely hears Claire calling her husband, but since the day they kissed, her relationship has indeed improved a lot, and she has become more intimate with him. Therefore, Charlie's mood is particularly special when he hears this husband word. He smiled and said to Claire, "Wife, don't you have any plans tonight?" "No, what happened?" "Oh, it's nothing. A friend who runs a pharmaceutical factory just happened to treat me to dinner in the evening and said that I wanted to take you with me." "A friend who runs a pharmaceutical factory? Why would he invite you to dinner?" Charlie smiled and said, "He asked me to be a consultant. You forgot, I can order traditional medicine somehow. Dad was injured before, and the head has blood stasis. I treated him with medicine." Claire remembered this, and said with a smile, "If you don't tell me, I'm really forgetting it. Is it appropriate for you two to eat together?" Charlie smiled and said, "It's appropriate, of course it's appropriate. I'll tell you that he has also invited other distinguished guests, and he can introduce you to them at that time. Claire said, "Okay, I have nothing to do tonight anyway, I will let you arrange." "Okay, I'll call you again in the afternoon." Claire said, "Okay, then I'll hang up first, there is still work to be done." Charlie hurriedly said, "Good wife, just kiss and hang up." "Don't." Claire said embarrassedly, "You are becoming more and more adept now." Charlie smiled happily and said, "Hey, my wife, we both kissed each other. What are you afraid of when you kiss on the phone? Come on. Husband first kiss you." As he said, a kissing sound came from his mouth. Claire was ashamed and unbearable on the phone, and said in a shameful voice, "You really convinced me. You can be a hooligan on the phone." Charlie smiled and said, "You are my wife, how can I be called a hooligan?" As he said, he lied, "Good wife, just give me a kiss, okay? I beg you." In the upper-class society of Oris Hill, almost everyone knows that Master is a real dragon on earth. When ordinary people see him, they are all servile. How can they ever see him begging for others? That is, his wife Claire could make him beg for nothing. Although Claire was ashamed, she felt a little sweet in her heart, so she said softly, "Okay, I'm afraid of you, just a moment, don't get any more inches. Okay, just kiss, and I will hang up." Only then did Claire let out a kissing sound shyly. With this kiss, Charlie's bones were almost crisp. So he said with a sullen face, "Good wife, the voice was too small just now, I didn't hear clearly, let's have another one." Claire said in a three-pointed angrily, "You bad guy, you know you are not good-natured, you are dead." After speaking, shyly hung up the phone. Charlie listened to the beep from the phone, he smiled, and then he put the phone in his pocket contentedly, and continued to ride his small donkey, driving towards the gymnasium. In the gymnasium at this time, the previous 8 arenas have become 4. The venue was suddenly empty, but a lot of auditoriums were added accordingly. After all, the games have reached the quarterfinals. As the game progresses, the players will become stronger and more enjoyable. In this game, Charlie is no longer a pure spectator, but Aoxu's current coach. So after he got to the gym, he went directly to the backstage player lounge. At this time, Aoxu had just changed into the competition uniform, and then in order to keep warm, another blanket was approved outside. Seeing Charlie's arrival, she was extremely happy, and asked him softly, "Master, what tactical arrangements did you make for me today?" Charlie smiled and said, "There is no tactical arrangement today. Your physical fitness has improved so much now. I believe this game is more than enough for you. You can just go all out to play." Aoxu asked embarrassedly, "Master, are you so confident in me? Are you afraid that I will lose this game?" Charlie said with a serious face, "I believe that the little pepper Aoxu in my eyes will never let me down." Aoxu's pretty face immediately blushed, and she replied with shame, "Master can rest assured, Aoxu will definitely go all out." Only one wall separated from her lounge is Nanako's room. At this time, Yamamoto Kazuki also said to her the same thing as Charlie, "Nanako, in today's game, the opponent is far less powerful than you, so I won't make any tactical arrangements with you. I believe you can easily win." Nanako nodded and said seriously, "Master, rest assured, I will get this victory." As they were talking, a knock on the door suddenly sounded. Hiroshi Tanaka, who had been standing at the door, hurriedly opened the door, and saw Jiro, dressed in a blue suit and a little handsome, standing at the door, holding a bouquet of roses in his hand. As soon as the door opened, he stepped in and said to Nanako with a smile, "Miss Ito, came here specially to wish you a victory." Seeing Jiro come in, Nanako frowned slightly. Since the last lunch with Jiro, he has come to harass 5 times, and Nanako is troubled. In fact, when Nanako ate dinner that day, she deliberately stated her view of choosing a spouse, saying that when it is about the other half, the most important thing is to be stronger than herself, in order to let Jiro retreat. However, Jiro seemed to filter out her words instinctively. What's more, this guy returned the Shangri-La room, moved to the Oris Hill International Hotel, and simply lived opposite Nanako, which made her very dissatisfied. However, her father Ito Yuhiko kept asking her to make her more friendly to Jiro, which made Nanako even more depressed. "I feel disgusted, but I can't get angry or drive him away, just like a big fly buzzing around my ears, which is annoying." Although Koichi Tanaka knew very well that his eldest lady hated this Jiro, but because the president had given orders, he reached out and took the flowers that Jiro had handed over, and said respectfully, "Mr. Kobayashi, that is so nice of you. I thank you for our eldest lady." Jiro nodded and walked to Nanako. The gentleman smiled and said, "Miss Nanako, I will cheer for you in the audience later." Nanako said blankly, "Mr. Kobayashi, I prefer to be quiet before the game, so please go out first." Jiro smiled and said, "I don't have to say anything, just watch Miss Nanako silently." Nanako didn't expect Jiro to have such a thick face, so she said lightly, "Mr. Kobayashi, let me go, I will close my eyes and rest for a while." Jiro nodded, and simply sat down diagonally across from Nanako. Seeing Nanako, whose beautiful eyes were slightly closed and her face full of calmness, he couldn't help but get up again. Secretly, this woman is really quiet like a virgin, moving like a rabbit, so heroic on stage, but quiet, soft as water, and her face is so beautiful and moving. She is simply a Japanese man's dream girl, or say Yamato Nadeshiko. The so-called Yamato Nadeshiko is not a person's name, but a vocabulary unique to Japanese culture. It refers to those excellent women who have a quiet and reserved personality, gentle and considerate, mature and stable, and also possess noble virtues and excellent temperament. It can be said that the Yamato Nadeshiko type woman, in Japan, is the goddess that all Japanese men dream of. It is also usually regarded by Japanese men as the representatives of the most ideal women, and it is worth pursuing with all their energy. Therefore, Jiro has also regarded Nanako as his best life partner. In any case, he must go all out to pursue her. A man who can get such a perfect woman is truly worthy of life. 10 minutes later, the staff of the competition organizing committee knocked on the door and said, "Ms. Nanako, please prepare to enter the arena. Your competition venue is in the second ring." Nanako stood up, bowed slightly, and said, "Thank you." Yamamoto Kazuki on the side had a cold expression on his face, and asked, "Which ring is for player Aoxu?" The staff member said, "Number 4. Yamamoto Kazuki said to Nanako, "Nanako, I believe you will be able to directly knock the opponent in the first round of this game, so I won't go to the scene to guide you in the game." Nanako asked curiously, "Master, are you going to watch that Aoxu's match?" "Yes." Yamamoto Kazuki said, "I'm going to see how powerful her coach is, and he was able to destroy that coach in one blow. If he has real talent, it will definitely be a huge info for us in the future." Threatening, "Besides, I also see if Aoxu has made any progress under his guidance." Jiro hurried over and said with a serious face, "Mr. Yamamoto, please go ahead, Ms. Nanako, I will accompany her throughout the game." Yamamoto Kazuki shook his head helplessly. He was also a little disgusted with Jiro, thinking that such a man who had no power to bind a chicken was not worthy of his outstanding disciple, and buzzing like a fly here would only make people disgusting. However, although he is considered a national treasure-level master in Japan, he must also give enough respect to the Ito family and Ito Yuhiko. Therefore, it is not good to express his disgust and disdain to Jiro directly. Simply treat him as air and ignore. Jiro didn't expect Yamamoto Kazuki to ignore him, and was a little annoyed, but he knew that Yamamoto Kazuki was Nanako's teacher and a person whom Nanako very respected, so he could only suppress his irritation. Not only did he choose to swallow his breath, he also took the opportunity to take pictures of Yamamoto's horses, and said with a smile, "Mr. Yamamoto, you are a famous top Japanese master. You don't have to put a second-rate player's coach in your eyes, no matter if he's or a coach, still a contestant, certainly not as good as you and Miss Nanako. In my eyes, under your leadership, Nanako will surely be able to win 2 consecutive Olympic championships. At that time, both of you will become the world famous. As the saying goes, he wears thousands of things, and he doesn't wear flattery." Yamamoto Kazuki was very proud to hear this compliment. When he was young, his fortune was not good. Although he is the strongest in Japan, he has been held down by several senior Chinese players and has never won a world championship. Later, when he got older and couldn't compete the Olympics became his great regret. Now, his biggest goal is to bring out an apprentice who can win the Olympic champion. When his apprentice represents him on the Olympic champion podium, his lifelong regrets can be made up for. Immediately, Nanako and Kazuki Yamamoto left the lounge together, and Jiro and Koichi Tanaka followed them. As soon as he left the house, Charlie walked out side by side with Aoxu in the next room. When Aoxu saw Kazuki Yamamoto and Nanako, she exclaimed and said in a low voice, "Master, that girl is Nanako. Next to her is the Japanese national treasure master, Kazuki Yamamoto." Charlie looked up, and was shocked by Nanako's appearance. He had seen many beautiful women, but it was the first time he saw a woman who could give people such a clear feeling. Yamamoto Kazuki also recognized Aoxu, and immediately focused his attention on Charlie. He thought to himself, could this young man be Aoxu's new coach? It seems that there is nothing remarkable. At this time, Jiro saw Charlie as if he saw a ghost immediately. He knew Charlie because Charlie indirectly poisoned his father at the beginning, and was entrusted by him to kill his brother, and by the way, he blackmailed his family for 10 billion. At that time, he found someone to investigate Charlie's information and got Charlie's photo. Unexpectedly, he would encounter this evil star here. When Charlie looked at Nanako, he found a strange look behind her, looking at him. He frowned subconsciously and looked at it, but he saw a wretched man who was somewhat familiar, looking at him with horror. Don't look at this kid who looks like 5 people and 6 people, but under Charlie's golden eyes, you can tell at a glance that this kid is not a good bird. He must be the kind of scum with benevolence and morality and full of male thieves and women. Charlie glanced over, then watched Jiro shaking all over. He couldn't help but tremble, because this Charlie really left him an extremely deep impression. He has seen ruthless people. It is said that in Hong Kong a few years ago, a big brother kidnapped the son of the richest man, walked into the villa of the richest man with bombs all over his body, and then blackmailed 1 billion. He has also heard of a money-carrying robbery in Europe that shocked the world. The robbers robbed the money-carrying car of over 100 million euros. But he has never heard of that fraudulent who poisoned others to death with poison and cheated the other party's family with 10 billion. Charlie is such an incredible and unheard astupidal. According to his investigation, Charlie's methods are extremely harsh. At the beginning, his brother, Ichiro, brought several outstanding bodyguards from Oris Hill. It is said that they were all chopped up by his men and fed to the dogs. When he thought of this, he was terrified. This time he came to Oris Hill, he was also very afraid of meeting Charlie, so he was very low-key. After arriving in Oris Hill, he only stayed in the hotel and rarely went out. But he didn't expect that he would actually see this evil star at the college Sanda competition. Therefore, he was extremely nervous. Charlie also saw that he was nervous, and he couldn't help but feel a little curious. He hadn't seen this man before, and he should have never known him before. Then why did he look at him with such horrified eyes? After a while, Charlie suddenly wanted to understand why he looked a little familiar with this guy. This guy's appearance was so similar to that of Ichiro who was feeding the dog at the Orville's kennel farm. While Charlie was looking at Jiro, Nanako's coach Yamamoto Kazuki was also looking at him. Also looking at Charlie, and Nanako beside Kazuki Yamamoto. Because he heard the coach talk about Charlie before, both of them tried to see Charlie's approximate cultivation level through their eyes. Charlie looked at Jiro at this time, and smiled enthusiastically, "Oh! If I admit it, this is Mr. Jiro from the Kobayashi family, right?" Jiro looked at Charlie with a warm smile on his face and couldn't help fighting a cold war. But he knew that he was on Charlie's territory now, and he couldn't provoke or neglect what he said to such evil stars. As a result, Jiro could only force a smile, and said tremblingly, "Gee, Your Excellency must be Wade, Master, right?" When Charlie heard Jiro say his name, he laughed and said, "Mr. Kobayashi is really smart. We two had never met before today, and you recognized me." Jiro looked at Charlie, his heart was bleeding, and at the same time he cursed in his heart, "You fraudulent, how can I not recognize you? You cheated our Kobayashi family with 10 billion and killed us." The culprits of the two immediate family members of the Kobayashi family. "Although I hired you to kill my brother, he died in your hands." Although Jiro was very angry, he didn't dare to be disobedient. He hurriedly said with a smile, "Mr. Charlie, I didn't expect you to be so handsome, tall, and chic." Charlie smiled and said, "Mr. Kobayashi is not bad, you can see that what you have cleaned up is a spirited guy, but just a little bit shorter." Jiro was depressed for a while. He is less than 1.7 meters tall. Although he is a normal height among Asian men, he is still far from the standard of being rich and handsome. Jiro dreamed of growing to 1.8 meters, but after trying many ways, he still failed. Therefore, the problem of height has always been a pain in his heart. Right now, in front of Nanako, being teased by Charlie, who is 1.5 meters tall, made his face somewhat uncontrollable. Charlie said at this time, "Hey, Mr. Kobayashi, I didn't expect your Mandarin to speak very standard, but it is much better than your brother." Jiro hurriedly said, "My brother was lazy during his lifetime, so he has not studied Chinese very seriously." "Oh." Charlie nodded lightly and smiled, "I heard that Mr. Kobayashi's company sponsored this Sanda competition. Is this the reason you came to Oris Hill?" "Yes, yes." Jiro wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said hurriedly, "We are the sponsor of this competition, and I will personally be awarding the trophy of this competition at the finals." Charlie nodded and smiled, and said to Aoxu next to him, "Aoxu, have you seen this short one? Waiting for you to win the championship, he will give you the prize." "Little, shorter." Hearing this, Jiro felt very depressed. He is not short in Japan, why does Charlie call himself short? Moreover, he looked down upon himself too much when he spoke. At any rate, he was also a big living person of 1.6 meters standing here, and he even asked that Aoxu, did he see himself as a little one? Is it that he is too short to make Aoxu invisible? Jiro was extremely depressed, but he knew that he was on someone else's territory, so he didn't dare to show his depression and anger. At this time, Yamamoto Kazuki looked a little ugly. He looked at Charlie and said coldly, "This gentleman's tone is a bit too arrogant, right?" Charlie frowned, pointed to Jiro, and asked Yamamoto Kazuki, "Mr. Look for yourself, is it wrong that I said he is short?" Jiro suffered a crit once again, and almost a mouthful of blood stuck in his throat, almost about to vomit out. Nanako on the side suddenly chuckled. She heard that Charlie was deliberately taking the opportunity to ridicule Jiro, but she didn't expect this man to be so humorous. At this time, Yamamoto Kazuki said with a black face, "I was talking arrogantly, not this short man, but what you just said to Aoxu. The champion of this competition must be the Nanako next to me. She is the youngest and most promising Sanda master. Among her peers, no one can match." Hearing this, Nanako hurriedly lowered her head and said humbly, "Master, you are serious? There is an old Chinese saying that there is a sky outside the sky and there are people outside the world. I dare not pretend that no one can match." Yamamoto Kazuki said coldly, "Nanako. A warrior must have the faith and confidence to win at all times." Charlie looked at Kazuki Yamamoto with interest at this time. In fact, he himself didn't know much about the Sanda fight circle. If it weren't for Aoxu to participate in this competition, he would not pay attention to the people in this circle at all. Because in his opinion, even if the Sanda fight is practiced to the extreme, it is nothing more than a foreigner in traditional martial arts. Everyone knows that only practicing muscles and bones and fighting skills are the most basic external disciples. Those who are good at using qi, are good at using internal energy, and use internal energy to drive the whole body are the real internal disciples. However, there are countless people practicing martial arts all over the world. Even a 3-year-old kid who is learning Taekwondo is a martial artist. But among so many people, there are really hard-working people. Yamamoto Kazuki is a master at a foreigner at first glance. Even though he is about the same age as his old man, his physical fitness is very strong, and his musculoskeletal and overall body explosive power are far above ordinary people. But in front of the real master of the inner family, Yamamoto Kazuki was almost vulnerable. The key reason why such foreign masters can win medals in international competitions is that domestic masters simply disdain to participate in such competitions. If you compare this kind of competition to a talent show like A Good Voice, then the inner master is the world's top superpowered singer, just like the late tenor Pavarotti. At the height of Pavarotti, let alone let him participate in the competition with a good voice, let him be a mentor with a good voice, it would insult his identity and status in the music industry. It's a pity that many foreign masters don't understand this truth. They think that apart from participating in the competition, they are all top players from all over the world, but they don't know. The real masters disdain to participate in this kind of pediatric competition. So let alone a top master like Charlie. Because of this, master like Yamamoto Kazuki in front of him looked like an ant in Charlie's eyes. Charlie looked at him and asked with a smile, "This gentleman, why do you think so confidently that Nanako is the champion?" Yamamoto Kazuki said with a full face, "I have been in the Sanda fighting world for many years, and my experience in Sanda fighting far exceeds ordinary people. From my professional point of view, Nanako is a super genius who has been rare in decades. If I have taught her, she will win the championship." Charlie smiled and said, "Mr. Yamamoto is a bit too confident. Why do you think you have a better experience of Sanshou fighting than ordinary people? And why do you feel that you have a little bit of ability to teach you everything? Can you create a world champion? If you have all the experience and skills, you can only be regarded as second-rate and third-rate on the way of martial arts, then how can Nanako learn from you? How can she win the world championship?" Yamamoto Kazuki sternly said, "Boy, I know you have a bit of strength, but you are too defiant to speak like this." Charlie smiled and said, "Is it arrogance? I believe you will know it shortly." After he finished speaking, he looked at Nanako, who was surprised, and said with a smile, "Miss Nanako, your roots and meridians are indeed very good. From the perspective of our traditional martial arts, your Ren and Du 2 veins have been opened. Nearly half of the time, if the 2 channels of Ren and Du are fully opened, then you have the opportunity to become a disciple of the inner family." "Ren Du veins?" Nanako asked in surprise, "Is this the Ren Du veins mentioned in martial arts novels? In addition, what is the inner disciple?" Charlie said solemnly, "The martial arts novels are also based on traditional martial arts, just like the 2 lines of Ren Du mentioned in it. This concept was not proposed by the author of martial arts novels, but was an old traditional medicine practitioner thousands of years ago. The ancestor proposed it. As for the inner disciple you asked, let me tell you this, you practice the way you are now, even if you practice for another 40 to 50 years, when you are as old as this Uncle Yamamoto, you still haven't really entered into martial arts. Only by opening up the two channels of Ren and Du, and assisting them with the teaching of internal strength techniques by masters of the internal family, can you become a disciple of the internal family. Nanako asked again, then, is the inner disciple very strong? Yamamoto Kazuki sneered, Nanako, don't listen to this kid talking about it. The so-called internal family and external family is just a method of deceiving people in ancient martial arts. Do you remember that I have shown you some of them who are called two high-handed old ladies? Nanako, I remember. Yamamoto Kazuki sneered and said, some old ladies wore a white Tai Chi suit and could hit more than a dozen strong men with a single wave. What's even more outrageous was that they lined up a dozen or 2 dozen people in a row. An old lady slapped a hand in front of her, and she could knock the entire row of dozens of people down to the ground. It seemed so mysterious, but it was just a scene arranged by the extras. Charlie smiled slightly. It is undeniable that there are indeed many people who bluff and deceive under the banner of the inner disciples, but this is just the personal behavior of some liars. You can't deny the existence of this thing just because someone relies on this deception. By the way, some time ago I met a few guys in Oris Hill who are known as Japanese karate masters. They are the bodyguards of big men. They brag about themselves as if their world is invincible. But in the end, these people were all caught by my friends. Fed to the dog. Is it because these people are weak, I will deny your karate? Yamamoto Kazuki was speechless for a while. He didn't know whether the story Charlie told was true. The expression on the side of Jiro became very frightened. He knows what Charlie said, who those karate masters are. His brother Ichiro has always had a team of bodyguards, all of whom are Japanese karate masters. But their subsequent fate, he already knew. Yamamoto Kazuki didn't know this. He sneered and said, "Boy, what do you call Tai Chi and internal strength? Dare you compare it with karate? Tell you, karate is the most powerful fighting technique in the world. 1. It is 1,000 miles stronger than your kind of Tai Chi magical skill that is performed by actors." Charlie smiled and said, "Mr. Yamamoto, I'm not talented. I have learned a little bit of Tai Chi and internal strength. If you don't believe me, dare you stand here and stretch out your hands to take me with one palm?" Yamamoto Kazuki said arrogantly, "Why don't I dare? But if I hold you in the palm, I want you to kneel and say that Kung Fu is all rubbish, and you are the sick man of East Asia." Sick man of East Asia? Hearing these 5 words, Charlie had a playful smile on his face. It seems that this Yamamoto Kazuki is really arrogant. However, he seems to have some misunderstanding about his own strength. With his kind of rubbish outsider, even if he has practiced his flesh skills to the extreme, he cannot be his opponent. Originally, it would be fine to despise the two, but he didn't expect this fraudulent to have no sportsmanship. It would be a bit hateful to even move out the words for the sick man of East Asia. So Charlie smiled slightly and said, "Since Mr. Yamamoto wants to play a little bit bigger, then we might as well put the bet even higher." Yamamoto Kazuki sneered and said, "No matter how much you play, I will stay with you to the end." For Yamamoto Kazuki, no matter how strong Charlie was, it was absolutely impossible to defeat himself with a single palm. So he made this bet with him. No matter how he bet, he will win. So he doesn't care about increasing the bet. Charlie smiled and said, in this way, I am the most fair and principled person in doing things. Since you mentioned the word sick man in East Asia, I am the most disgusted with these words. Then we might as well make a bet. Whoever loses the bet, whoever wins, use a knife to engrave these characters on the forehead of the loser. Yamamoto Kazuki laughed loudly after hearing this. Boy, I didn't want to have fun like this, but I didn't expect you to find death by yourself. Charlie smiled and said, it doesn't matter whether you can find someone to die or not. Everyone comes out and mixes. Since I dare to say it, I can naturally afford it. Just tell me, dare you play? Yamamoto Kazuki didn't expect Charlie to be so stubborn. He immediately sneered and said, what can I not dare? So many people have witnessed that whoever is afraid is the real sick man of East Asia, come on. Nanako hurriedly persuaded, second, a little thing, why bother so unpleasantly? After speaking, she looked at Charlie and said seriously, gentlemen, my master has a bad temper. I apologize for him. He shouldn't mention those 4 words in front of you and hurt your emotions. I hope you don't mind. Yamamoto Kazuki shouted sternly, Nanako. Although you are the eldest lady of the Ito family, you do not need to intervene or allow you to intervene in the affairs of a teacher. Nanako was so scolded by him, and immediately bowed apologetically and said, Master, I'm sorry. Yamamoto Kazuki ignored her. Instead, he looked at Charlie and said lightly, before we start, we have to make it clear how to win or lose. Charlie nodded, it's very simple. I'll slap you. After that, as long as you can stand up, I lose. Yamamoto Kazuki thought to himself, there are too many loopholes to take advantage of here. First of all, even if he hurts one leg with one palm, he can still stand on the other leg. Secondly, even if he hurt his 2 legs with one palm, he can stand up with his hands and climb other things. So, no matter how you play, you are a winner. So he said arrogantly, if that's the case, then do what you said, let's do it. The corners of Charlie's mouth rose slightly. He didn't even need to make any preparations, he just slapped a soft palm at Kazuki Yamamoto. If you just look at the strength of his palm, people who don't know think he is going to give a friendly high five to Yamamoto Kazuki. However, no one knew that Charlie's palm contained powerful inner strength and spiritual energy. Yamamoto Kazuki laughed almost immediately when he looked at Charlie's useless palm. He said with disdain, just a palm like yours is not as good as a 3-year-old child. The old master can take it with just one hand. Yamamoto Kazuki wanted to say that it can be resolved with just one hand, but the word resolve has not been said yet. Charlie's palm just touched his skin, and he was like being hit head-on by a high-speed train. On, followed by a sharp pain. Yamamoto Kazuki made a sound, and the whole person flew out at high speed. This flight drew a parabola more than 20 meters long in the air. Before he landed, his veins and muscles were already in the air by Charlie's spiritual energy, and they were all broken. In other words, during the time he was flying in the air, he had gone from a martial arts master recognized well to a useless man without the power of a chicken. Immediately after Yamamoto Kazuki banged, he hit the ground heavily. At the moment when Yamamoto Kazuki fell to the ground, a stream of atomized blood spouted from his mouth. He saw a cloud of blood rising into the air. Yamamoto Kazuki tried to stand up with pain and horror on his face, but he found that his hands and feet couldn't exert any strength at all. He does not understand traditional martial arts. Otherwise, he must be able to judge his current state immediately. If you use 4 words to describe it, it means that the meridians are all broken. In traditional Chinese martial arts, once a person's meridians are cut, it is no longer possible to get rid of the word waste. The difference from hyperplegia is that if you compare a person's nerves to an intricate road network, then the main road from the brain to the entire body is now a person's cervical spine. Hyperplegia is equivalent to completely destroying the main road at the cervical spine, so that the brain and the body cannot communicate effectively. And if the meridians are completely broken, it is equivalent to destroying all the nerves and the road network, whether it is the main line or the branch line. At this time, Yamamoto Kazuki was the latter. Seeing her master, Nanako was lying on the ground unable to move, her face full of extreme pain, hurriedly ran to him, and asked nervously, "Master, how are you? Are you okay?" Yamamoto Kazuki's lips trembled slightly, and his eyes were full of horror. I can't feel my limbs, my torso, and everything about me. I'm scrapped." After saying this, Yamamoto Kazuki's eyes flowed out 2 lines of muddy old tears. He really did not expect that he had been in the martial arts world for many years, and in the end, he would end up so tragically. When Nanako heard this, she was frightened for a while, then hurriedly looked at Charlie, blurted out and pleaded, "Master, please save my master. I'm kneeling for you." Charlie said blankly, "His whole body meridians have been completely broken, and he can only ask for more blessings for the rest of his life." After finishing speaking, he stepped up to Yamamoto Kazuki, lowered his head, looked down at him, and said lightly, "Yamamoto Kazuki, there is a buzzword on the internet, I don't want to waste you, but if you want to send it to the door and beg me to abolish you, then I can't help it. In addition, don't think that this is over. Our bet has just begun. I will give you 1 minute to stand up. If you can't stand up, then I won our bet. As I win, then I will engrave the words 'Sick Man of East Asia' on your forehead." At this moment, Yamamoto Kazuki trembled with fright. This was the first time in his life that he felt terrified from the depths of his soul. He has never seen such a master, and even this has far exceeded his knowledge of masters. What kind of master would have such terrifying strength? A soft palm turned him into a completely useless person. The key is that even if he completely beats himself into a waste with 1 palm, he is still not satisfied, and he has to engrave the extremely humiliating 4 words on his forehead. Thinking of this, he begged in a panic, "Sir, I are not as good as a human being in playing skills, and it is my own responsibility to be abolished by you, but please leave the last face for me, don't engrave those 4 words on the forehead, please." Nanako also bowed to Charlie in tears, and said in an urgent and pleading voice, "Sir, please see my master's seniority, give him a chance." Charlie looked at Nanako and asked, "If it is me who loses, based on your understanding of him, do you think he will give me a chance?" Nanako was speechless. She knows what kind of person her master is. It can't be said to be a heinous bad guy, but he is definitely a ruthless person who says nothing. With the character of this master, if he had won Charlie, then he would definitely not give Charlie any chance to beg for mercy. Thinking of this, Nanako didn't know what to do. She wanted to continue to intercede, but she felt that it wouldn't have any real meaning. Although she doesn't know the man in front of her, she knows the history of the two countirs. Therefore, she also understands that the words sick man in East Asia are the existence that every Chinese young, old, and child hates. Over the years, the Chinese have been constantly striving for self-improvement. From the feudal society where others were bullied, they have become the world's second largest and powerful country with more than 1 billion people. The efforts of several dozens of hundreds of years are to get rid of the sick men of East Asia, and let the Chinese nation rise again on top of the world. Under such circumstances, Master even had to make a bet with him with the words sick man of East Asia. Doesn't this mean that he has touched his negative scale? Thinking of this, Nanako cried and said, "Sir, my master is old and he should have enjoyed his old age. It was for me he had to come out again. He has lost his ability to move. The next half of his life is bound to be very hard. He has been severely punished, so please raise your hands high and don't humiliate him anymore." Charlie glared at Nanako, and then asked, "When he mentioned the sick man of East Asia to me, why didn't you think about it? He thought I was a Chinese. Is it still bullying like that 100 years ago?" Nanako shook her heart. It seems that Master really offended this young Chinese to the extreme this time. The other party will definitely not give up. At this time, the so-called Master himself was also very worried. If he was allowed to lie on the bed for the rest of his life, he could barely accept it, but if he had a sick East Asian man with a knife on his forehead, it would really be better to die. So he cried bitterly, "Sir, I am willing to give you money. A lot of money. Give you all my life savings, just beg you to let me go this time." Charlie smiled, "No matter how much money you have, how much money can I have?" Yamamoto Kazuki said hurriedly, "There are nearly $100 million in savings. If you are willing to let me go, sir, I can give you all the money, which is equivalent to at least 5 or 6 billion. Nanako also said hurriedly, "Sir, if it's about money, then I can give you a relatively generous figure. Why don't I give you 100 millions as well? What do you think?" Charlie looked at Kazuki Yamamoto, then at Nanako, and then pointed to the frightened Jiro on the side, and said, "You two ask this brother here, how much money do I have?" Jiro's legs kept trembling, and he stammered, "Wait, Mr. Charlie, I really don't know how much money you have." "Don't know?" Charlie said with a smile, "Then you can tell them directly, just your Kobayashi family, how much did it honor me?" Jiro hurriedly said, Mr. Yamamoto, Miss Ito, honored our Kobayashi family to Mr. Charlie by 10 billion. "How much?" Charlie frowned, "How come it has become 10 billion? Jiro was terrified. In fact, the entire Kobayashi family honored Charlie with 11 billion, of which 10 billion was given to him by his father Masao Kobayashi when he was alive and used to purchase drug patents. The remaining 1 billion was given to him in private to murder his own brother. Therefore, he dared not collect the 1 billion, so he said a 10 billion. Seeing that Charlie was very dissatisfied, he could only bite the bullet and said, "I'm sorry, I was a little nervous for a while, and my mind was a little confused." In fact, our Kobayashi family honored master with a total of 11 billion. Nearly 2 billion USD. Yamamoto Kazuki was stunned by the number. The Kobayashi family alone contributed 11 billion RMB to this young man? What is this because of? Isn't he just a coach? There are more than 10 billion, why does he want to coach Aoxu? Nanako was also shocked. Although the Ito family is very rich, Nanako is still studying after all. The money she has saved through various channels since she was a child is only 50 million US dollars. He promised to give Charlie 100 million, and the rest 50 million, he has to find a way to ask the family for it. But she didn't expect Charlie to be so rich. In this way, spending money will not make him hold his hands high. At this time, Yamamoto Kazuki was desperate. He looked at Charlie, his eyes were red and swollen, and he choked up, "Mr. Charlie, I really know that I was wrong. I just ask you to raise your hand, don't take away the last bit of dignity as a warrior, you and me as a warrior, I believe you will be able to empathize with me." Charlie laughed and said, "Don't be arrogant and cry for mercy when you can't hold it. It's useless. I hate others for insulting our country and nation. It's your ancestor who has accumulated virtue, otherwise, I can send you to see Amaterasu with that palm." After all, Charlie took out his mobile phone, called Mr. Orville, and ordered, "Mr. Orville, come to Oris Hill Stadium, it's time to show off your human calligraphy." When Yamamoto Kazuki heard the content of Charlie's call, he asked nervously, "Could it be, isn't it that you are here to engrave?" Charlie smiled and said, "What do you want? Let me engrave you? You deserve it too." After speaking, Charlie laughed playfully and continued, "I am looking for a friend of mine this time. Although he has not gone to much school and has no elementary school education level, he can still write the word sick man in East Asia. At that time, I will let him try to engrave on your forehead as big as possible, so that you are satisfied." Yamamoto Kazuki was in a panic. What else he wanted to say? At this time, the staff of the organizing committee ran over and said to Nanako and Aoxu, "Two contestants, the competition has already started, and your two opponents are already there. Waiting on the ring, please hurry up and go to the ring to participate in the competition. If you don't arrive at the match within 10 minutes, we will consider it as an automatic abstention." Aoxu recovered from the shock, looked at Charlie, and asked him, "Master Wade, do I go by myself, or are you with me?" Charlie smiled and said, "I came here today to watch your game. Of course I will go with you." Aoxu looked at Kazuki Yamamoto lying on the ground, and asked him in a low voice, "Master Kazuki, what should I do about the things here?" Charlie smiled and said, "Don't worry about him, let him lie down here, forgive him for not being able to escape from my palm." After speaking, Charlie stretched out his hand and patted Aoxu's back gently, and exhorted, "You must play well in the game later, don't let me down." Aoxu hurriedly nodded, "Teacher Wade, don't worry, I will definitely work hard." Charlie was not there either, Yamamoto Kazuki lying on the ground, and the crying reedy Nanako beside him, turned around and walked out of the rest area with Aoxu to the competition arena. Nanako was guarding Kazuki Yamamoto at this time, and asked with concern, "Master, I will contact an ambulance to take you to the hospital now." Yamamoto Kazuki waved his hand hurriedly. The game is about to start, you hurry up to participate in the game, don't worry about me, don't delay your game because of me. Jiro hurriedly said, yes, Nanako, if you don't go to the competition, you may be considered abstaining. In that case, you will lose the chance to win the championship. Nanako said eagerly, but I can't leave Master here alone, he can't move all over now. Yamamoto Kazuki blurted out, Nanako, don't worry about me, this game is very important to you, you must win the championship. But what do you do, Master? Just when Nanako didn't know what to do, Jiro hurriedly said, Miss Nanako, you go to the game tonight. Leave Mr. Yamamoto to me. I will take him to the hospital to make sure he gets the best treatment. Nanako asked imploringly, Mr. Kobayashi, can you please take Master back to Japan now? Don't let Master wait in grave on the forehead just now. What? When he heard this, Jiro turned pale with fright. Miss Nanako, do you want me to sneak Mr. Yamamoto back to Japan? Yes. Nanako gritted her teeth and said, in any case, I can't let Master suffer such insults. Even if it is a name that cannot be defeated on the back, I can't let them write on Master's forehead. After speaking, she looked at Jiro and asked earnestly, Mr. Kobayashi, please. When Yamamoto Kazuki heard this, he immediately had a strong impulse in his heart. Taking advantage of Charlie's absence, run quickly to avoid being humiliated. Even if he will never come to Oris Hill again, not come to China, or be a man in Japan, it is much better than returning to Japan with the words sick man of East Asia engraved on his forehead for the rest of my life. Thinking of this, he immediately looked at Jiro with eyes full of expectation and pleading, and said, Mr. Kobayashi, this time I ask you to help the old master. Jiro looked very embarrassed. If Nanako is asking him to do things, he will certainly go all out to win her favor. However, he even let himself secretly send Yamamoto Kazuki back to Japan from under Charlie's nose. Isn't this killing own self? They don't know how terrifying Charlie is, or how cruel Charlie's style is, but they know it clearly. Back then, his eldest brother fell into Charlie's hands in Oris Hill. At that time, the private jet of the Kobayashi family was at Oris Hill Airport. As long as the older brother got on the plane, he could escape Oris Hill and return to Tokyo. But the result? The plane did return to Tokyo, but his elder brother never returned. Not only that, the Kobayashi family also lost nearly $2 billion on Charlie. The Kobayashi family has been in Japan for decades. When have they encountered such a evil star? Therefore, even if he killed himself now, he would never dare to offend Charlie. Seeing Jiro's face full of embarrassment, Nanako kept silent and couldn't help but ask him, Mr. Kobayashi, do you have anything unspeakable? Jiro sighed, and said frankly, Miss Nanako, let me tell you, Mr. Charlie's real name is Charlie, I. Nanako asked, Mr. Kobayashi, don't always be ambiguous, tell me what's going on. Jiro's face blushed, and he lowered his head and muttered, I can't afford it, what? Nanako and Kazuki Yamamoto were surprised. The two of them never dreamed that Jiro, who loves face so much, would frankly admit that he couldn't offend that Charlie in front of them. Looking at his expression, it seemed that Charlie was very jealous and frightened. Jiro can't take care of face at this time. He continued, you too, the whole of China and even the whole world, the thing I dare not mess with is this Charlie. I have investigated some of the glorious deeds of this guy and to be honest, this person is simply a devil. As he said, he took out his mobile phone and hurriedly turned on YouTube to find the original cross-talk between Lu Guang and Lu Ming, and blurted out, "Look, this is not the first time he has engraved on someone's forehead." This father and son were also instructed by him to engrave these words on the foreheads of the father and son. Nanako and Kazuki Yamamoto were both staring dumbfounded at the father and son who talked about cross-talk in the video. They looked at the two people's foreheads, one with the poor hanging and the other with the poor hanging's father, that looked absolutely tragic. Jiro introduced with lingering fear on the side, according to my investigation, this father and son angered Charlie one after another. That's why Charlie engraved these words. In addition, Charlie has done a lot of evil. His crimes are simply overwhelming. If I really help Mr. Yamamoto escape from China today, let's not say whether the two of us can escape. Even if we escape, he will definitely get us back. Seeing the cross-talk between Lu Guang and Lu Ming, Nanako and Yamamoto Kazuma's face were ashes. Nanako finally understood, what exactly did Jiro mean when he said he could not provoke Charlie. This kind of evil star, most people are afraid that they can't afford to provoke him, and more importantly, it is still on their territory. At this time, Nanako burst into tears, and blurted out, "Or I call my father, let him find a way." Jiro kindly persuaded, "Ms. Nanako, even if you call Mr. Ito can't do anything about it. Even if Mr. Ito set off immediately, flying from Tokyo to Oris Hill, the journey will take at least 2 or 3 hours, but at most. In half an hour, Charlie's people may be here, and he has no choice at all. Although the Ito family is very powerful in Japan, their influence in Oris Hill is not worth mentioning. Not to mention Nanako, even if her father Ito Yuhiko came, he would be hacked to death by Orville's young brothers. This is the reason why the strong dragon does not crush the ground snake. Even if he has tens of thousands of younger brothers in Japan, how many can be sent to Oris Hill? Once the plane is ready, 200 or 300 people would be seated. Once these 200 or 300 people land, Charlie doesn't even need to take action at all. Mr. Orville's younger brother could chop them into meat sauce. While talking, the staff came to reminder, "Miss Ito, there are still 3 minutes left. If you don't appear yet, the referee will announce that you have abstained." Yamamoto Kazuki sighed and said, "It's nothing, this may be my fate, Nanako, you don't have to worry about me anymore, go to the competition." Nanako cried and said, "Master, you are like this, how can I participate in the competition?" Yamamoto Kazuki said, "It's useless for you to guard me here. You can't make me stand up again, and you can't stop Charlie from letting people engrave on my forehead. On the contrary, if you stay here, it will cause you are my favorite to get out of the game early, and I don't want you to retire without a fight." Jiro also persuaded her, "Miss Ito, you should go to the competition as soon as possible. If you win the competition, Mr. Yamamoto can still get some comfort." "Yes." Yamamoto Kazuki sternly said, "If you abstain from voting like this, then I will assume that I have never accepted you as an apprentice in my life." After hearing this, Nanako clenched her fists and gritted her teeth and said, "Master, rest assured, I will definitely win." Having said that, she immediately stood up, walked quickly out of the rest area, and went straight to her ring. At this moment, Aoxu's game had already started. She played against Joanna from Brazil, the number 3 seed of the entire game. This Joanna is a tall woman with strong muscles. Although she is the 3rd seed in this competition, the outside world is generally optimistic that she can beat the 2nd seed in this competition and get the runner-up title. Therefore, no one believes that Aoxu can beat this runner-up hot candidate. However, the shocking scene appeared soon. On the ring, as soon as Joanna came up, she launched a fierce attack on Aoxu. She felt that Aoxu's strength was not to be feared at all. If she wanted to ensure enough physical strength and energy to cope with the subsequent matches, the best way was to defeat Aoxu in the shortest time. Only in this way can she retain her physical strength to the greatest extent. However, she never dreamed that Aoxu's physical agility was unexpectedly high. She quickly punched her and counted her legs in a short period of time, but all these fierce and fast attacks were easily avoided by her. When she didn't know why, Aoxu suddenly shot a vicious whip. Because her body had just absorbed the magical medicine given by Charlie, and Charlie used the spirit energy to strengthen and reform it a bit. Therefore, her whip is extremely fast and powerful. Joanna didn't put Aoxu's whip leg in her eyes at all, because she knew Aoxu's strength and knew that Aoxu could not pose too much threat to her, so she subconsciously stretched out her hands to block it. At the same time, she had already made a tactical plan deep in her heart. After blocking Aoxu's leg with both hands, she immediately went straight out of her right foot, pedaling and attacking her right knee, as long as one hit succeeded, followed by a dragon swinging her left leg, should be able to knock Aoxu down. However, what made her dream crash was that Aoxu's whip leg was wrapped in a terrifying power that Joanna had never seen before. Joanna's palms and arms instantly felt a huge force hit, and immediately after a bang, the whole person flew out directly out of the ring. The audience was stunned. No one thought that the little-known Aoxu would knock the number 3 seed out of the ring with a single blow. Moreover, Joanna was seriously injured at this time, lying on the ground outside the ring, tried several times but failed to get up. Her coach hurriedly stepped forward, exchanged a few words with her, and then immediately said to the referee, "We give up." Give up? The scene was even more shocking. Is this to admit defeat? No one had never seen such a fast fighting match before. Aoxu only made one move and the match was over. Qin Gang was a little dazed. His daughter has a few kilograms and a few tails. He, who is a father, knows nothing better. He thought that even if his daughter had master's guidance today, it would be very difficult for her to win over this Joanna. But he didn't expect her to win so easily. Charlie looked at her with a smile on his face. His expression didn't have any surprise or shock. Because he had known for a long time that Aoxu was no longer the same. Her current strength can completely crush Joanna, even the number 1 seed, the favorite to win the championship, Nanako. When he saw Nanako just now, Charlie had probably seen her strength. There was nothing really powerful, just that the outside disciple had practiced to the extreme. The former Aoxu is naturally far from her opponent, but now she is far from Aoxu's opponent. At this moment, in another arena, Nanako has just begun her fierce battle. Her luck is very good. The opponent who was assigned this time, not even the top 5 seeded players, is much weaker than her. However, because she was thinking about the injury of her master, Yamamoto Kazuki, she was a little absent-minded, and her combat effectiveness was greatly weakened. Moreover, Charlie's figure appeared in her heart from time to time. Although Charlie injured her master and had to engrave on his forehead, which made her feel very angry, she still couldn't help thinking of Charlie's crushing master's palm. What exactly is it? Why is there such a powerful perverted strength? Just because she was thinking about things in her mind, Nanako was forced to retreat by her opponent. At this moment, she has no previous pursuit of this game. Because she has realized that she has been practicing martial arts for so many years, and in front of a real master, she can't even beat the opponent with a single palm. This caused a devastating blow to her self-confidence. In fact, whoever encounters this kind of thing will suffer a huge blow. It was not only her own self-confidence but also her long-standing beliefs that were defeated. For a long time, Nanako felt that she was at most 20 years away from the pinnacle of martial arts. 20 years later, she will definitely grow into the world's top martial arts master, and even become a martial arts master like her master Yamamoto Kazuki. However, Charlie just made her realize that the martial arts master in her mind is nothing more than an ant in front of a real master. It turns out that for so many years, she has been sitting in a well and watching the sky. Now, she realized that the real world of martial arts is far beyond her own. Before, she thought that the world is nothing more than this world, and the farthest distance is just from this end of the earth to the other end of the earth. But today she knew that there was actually a solar system, a galaxy, and even the entire vast universe outside of this earth. At this moment, she couldn't help thinking about another question: how many years would it take for her to grow into a true top master like Charlie? Recalling the palm that Charlie slapped, although her mentor was beaten into a waste, the impact of that palm on him at the level of martial arts was like the brilliance of a bright moon. Thinking about it this way, her concentration became even more dispersed. But her opponent took advantage of the situation and scored offensively. In the first game, Nanako was upset and lost, and the audience was in an uproar. No one thought that the number 1 seed player Nanako of this competition would actually lose to a little-known player in the first round of 8-4. When the referee announced the end of the first game, the opponents cheered excitedly. She never dreamed that she unexpectedly won the first game of the game she thought she would lose. It seems that Nanako's state has some problems today, but this is her great opportunity. When Nanako came to the rest area by the ring, her brain was still in a trance. Winning or losing the game is no longer important because her beliefs have collapsed. At this time, her assistant Koichi Tanaka said anxiously, "Miss, you can't be so negative. Now you have entered the knockout stage. If you lose this game, then this game will end here. That's it." Nanako smiled bitterly and murmured, "Tanaka, you have also seen the terrifying power of Mr. Charlie. The gap between me and him is simply Firefly and the Sunday. Do you know that there is an old saying, 'Firefly, how can your light compete with sun for glory?'" As she said, she sighed slightly, his strength is like a bright sun in the sky, and I am just a firefly in the grass in the wild. Koichi Tanaka's expression was also very emotional. He didn't know how he should persuade this eldest lady. Because he can understand Missy's mood at this time. The strength of the young man surnamed Wade is really terrifying. Kazuno Yamamoto is a Japanese national treasure master, but under his hands, he can't even hold a hand. If he was in place of the eldest lady, I am afraid at this moment he would have lost all fighting spirit. Not to mention the small game in front of him, even the Olympics, it seems to have become bleak. Even the so-called martial arts has become a joke. He served Nanako for many years. At this time, he couldn't help but feel heartache for her. He couldn't help but said, "Miss, if you really lose faith in this game, then let's go back to Japan." Nanako hurriedly asked, "Tanaka, where is my master? How is he now?" Hiroshi Tanaka stammered and said, "A few wicked men came just now." The man used a knife to carve the words "sick man of East Asia" on Mr. Yamamoto's forehead. Then Mr. Yamamoto wanted to bite his tongue and kill himself, but he failed. Was taken to the hospital by Mr. Kobayashi. What? Nanako was shocked, tears burst into her eyes, and she blurted out, "I'm going to the hospital to see Master. Take me now." Hiroshi Tanaka nodded and said, "Then I will tell the referee team now, we will give up the game." "Okay. Go." Nanako was already impatient. In her eyes, Yamamoto Kazuki was her mentor, and if he had any shortcomings, she would not be able to forgive herself in this life. After all, he came to China with her for the game. If it were not for her, he would not meet Charlie, let alone encounter these hardships. Just as she was about to give up the game and rush to the hospital to take a look at her teacher, a calm voice suddenly sounded, "Since you have participated in the competition, you must take it seriously. How can you give up halfway?" Nanako followed the prestige and saw that Charlie, who possessed terrifying power, was standing under the stage and looking at her expressionlessly. Her heart suddenly panicked. She didn't expect Charlie to watch her game, and she didn't understand why he would watch her game. In fact, Aoxu had already won the game with one move, so she had already gone to the locker room to take a shower and change clothes. Charlie had nothing to do, so he planned to come to watch Nanako's game, but he didn't expect that Nanako would lose the first set. However, he could also see that Nanako lost the first set because she was worried and could not concentrate on the game. Originally, he also thought that Nanako could quickly adjust the state, and then start to get back from the second game. But he didn't expect that Nanako was about to abandon the game. Nanako looked at him, thinking of her mentor who was trying to bite his tongue and commit suicide. There was a burst of indignation, a burst of strong indignation in her heart. She glared at Charlie, and shouted, "You bad guy! Why do you want to force my mentor step by step? Do you really want him to die?" Charlie said blankly, "Miss, I see your face and temperament. You should be a lady who has been well educated since childhood, not like an unreasonable person. Just now, between your master Yamamoto Kazuki and me, I see the conflict in your eyes all the way. I hope you ask yourself, was I forcing him in this whole thing? If he wasn't so proud and confident, not so arrogant, didn't take the initiative to use the words 'sick man of East Asia' to insult me, How can I be as angry as now? We in China have an old saying that the right way in the world is the vicissitudes of life. Is it true that in the eyes of you, a lady, the feeling of master and apprentice is more important than the right way in the world? Facing Charlie's question, Nanako was speechless. First, staring at Charlie speechless, then she blushed and was ashamed. In terms of emotion and reason, what Charlie said was right. The whole thing, in the final analysis, was her master begging to be hammered, and Charlie was not wrong. The ashamed Nanako can only bow to Charlie respectfully. Mr. Charlie, I am impulsive. Please forgive me. At the same time, please don't be insightful with me. Charlie nodded lightly. To a certain extent, he also understands Nanako. After all, everyone can be objective and fair when it's not about themselves, but once they have personal interests, it is difficult to be absolutely objective. It's like when someone else's child makes a mistake, I always hope that he can learn enough lessons, but when my child makes a mistake, I always hope that everyone can forgive him and give him another chance. Yamamoto Kazuki is the mentor of Nanako. The traditional culture of Japan and China is separated by a strip of water. The people of both countries pay attention to respect for teachers. Therefore, Nanako's respect and maintenance of Yamamoto Kazuki are also acceptable and understandable. But this is only understandable. Charlie can understand her feelings, but she will never change any opinions or decisions because of her. Therefore, he said in a flat tone, Miss Ito, since he is also a participant in this competition, we must respect this competition. Don't pass the competition or withdraw halfway. Otherwise, it will be disrespect for martial arts. Nanako said desperately, Mr. Charlie, your strength has made me truly aware of what real martial arts is. Compared with yours, the martial arts skills of mine are only at the level of beginners, even beginners. They are far from as good as they are even more shameless to continue participating in the competition in front of your excellency. Charlie shook his head. Martial arts does not necessarily have to compete with others. It is not only a sport, but also a culture and spirit. Isn't it true that people with poor strength are not qualified to learn martial arts? Because your admission level is much lower than mine, can you give up this game with peace of mind? Charlie paused slightly, then said in a more serious tone, word by word, if this is the case, then I can only say that you don't love martial arts at all. What you love is nothing more than a ranking. When you think you are ranked high, you love martial arts. When you think you rank very low, you betrayed martial arts. After all, you are not a loyal martial artist at all. Nanako blurted out with a hasty expression, no, it's not like that. I love martial arts. I am also a loyal warrior. I'm just. Charlie asked sharply, what are you just? Nanako was so nervous by his question, and immediately lowered her head in a shamed manner, gave up and continued to defend herself, and whispered, Mr. Charlie, you are right, I was wrong. I shouldn't give up the game at this time. I shouldn't betray martial arts at this time. Charlie said, have a good match, I also hope that Aoxio can meet you in the final. Nanako's eyes suddenly became extremely determined, and she nodded earnestly and said, I know Mr. Charlie. Don't worry, I will definitely fight to the final next. Discuss with your master. Charlie waved his hand. Aoxu is not my apprentice, she is my friend, or in a strict sense, she is my friend's daughter. I am just temporarily serving as her instructor these few days to give her some advice. Nanako asked in surprise, Mr. Charlie, aren't you a professional coach? Charlie smiled and said, of course not, I'm just an unemployed vagrant without any occupation. Unemployed? Nanako's face was filled with shock and increased irritability. Charlie, who is incredibly powerful, turned out to be an unemployed vagrant with no career? Just when she wanted to continue to ask for more information, the referee stepped up to the ring and said, the countdown for the second game is 30 seconds. Charlie said to Nanako, you can concentrate on the game, I'm leaving now. Mr. Charlie, you want to go? Nanako suddenly felt a sense of loss in her heart. Charlie said at this time, oh, yes, Yamamoto Kazuki's bet has ended. After he is discharged from the hospital, he can leave Oris Hill freely. After all, Charlie didn't stay on the scene anymore, turned around and left without looking back. Nanako observed him a little lost. Tanaka Hiroji hurriedly urged her, Miss, we are going to play. Are you still playing? Compare. Of course it is better. Nanako suddenly wanted to regain all her fighting spirit. She said with firm eyes and a firm tone, I will definitely advance to the finals and compete with Aoxu face to face. I will never let Mr. Charlie look down on me. When Charlie arrived outside the gymnasium, Qin Gang and Aoxu were already waiting here. Seeing Charlie coming out, Qin Gang hurried forward and said respectfully, Master, I didn't expect Aoxu to make such a huge improvement under your guidance. I am really grateful. Charlie said lightly, Mr. Qin, you and me don't have to be so polite. Aoxu is not only your daughter, but also my friend. This little thing is something that friends should do. Qin Gang couldn't help but look at Aoxu, and said with a sigh, Aoxu, see how Master loves you. You must hear Master's words in the future and serve him wholeheartedly, understand? Aoxu said loudly without hesitation, don't worry, Dad. I am willing to follow Master in this life, obey his instructions, and repay him his kindness wholeheartedly. Charlie smiled and said, you and me don't have to be so polite, practice hard, winning this competition and winning the championship is the best reward for me. Aoxu said very seriously, Master, I was not sure to win the championship, but now I am fully confident. Aoxu's current strength is more than several times stronger than before. All of this relying on the magical medicine you gave Master, and your help to guide my power. Charlie smiled, if you talk to me so politely in the future, then I will consider staying away from you. Ah, don't Master Wade. Aoxu suddenly became anxious and said with red eyes, isn't it okay if Aoxu won't be so polite to you in the future? You must not alienate me. Charlie nodded, remember what you said, don't be so polite to me in the future. Aoxu must remember. Aoxu hurriedly agreed, and Qin Gang on the side said, Master, why don't you come to the house for a light meal? Charlie waved his hand, it won't be over today. There is still something going on at the pharma factory. I asked Liang to invite a spokesperson over to see him. In order to endorse JX Vicen, Sarah took her assistant and bodyguard to Oris Hill by plane. Since Gu's family is the third largest family in Eastcliff, the overall strength is very strong, so Sarah has always taken her own private jet when she goes out. On the one hand, it is easy and convenient, and the more important aspect is privacy. A big star like her will cause a huge sensation no matter whether it appears in any city in the country. If you want to keep a low profile, you must avoid the eyes and ears of the media, paparazzi and fans. So taking a private jet became her first choice when going out. After the plane arrived in Oris Hill, Liang personally went to greet and took Sarah and her party to JX Pharmaceutical. Originally, Liang planned to arrange for them to stay at the Shangri-La Hotel, take a break, and talk about work tomorrow. However, Sarah insisted on going directly to the JX Pharmaceutical. This is the first time that Sarah has endorsed drugs. She herself takes this seriously and is also very cautious. Therefore, her first thought was to visit the production factory of this pharmaceutical company to see if it was a sufficiently formal company. When Charlie went to JX Pharmaceutical, Sarah had already started to inspect the production line of JX Pharmaceutical under the leadership of Liang. The predecessor of JX Pharmaceutical is Ways Pharmaceuticals, which is a large-scale pharmaceutical company with a market value of several billions. Both the production line and the production process have reached the domestic first-class standards. Coupled with the medicinal effects of JX Vicin, Sarah had experienced it personally, so there was nothing to worry about. Therefore, she should have made up her mind and was willing to be the image spokesperson for JX Vicin. At this time, the discomfort caused by her spleen and stomach disorders has become more and more intense, and seeing the production line next to her, packs of JX Vicin were quickly packaged, so she asked Liang, "Mr. Liang, can you give me some JX Vicin first? My spleen and stomach have not been very good for a while." After taking a pack of JX Vicin, it has changed significantly, but the effect of the medicine has passed, so. Liang said earnestly, "Miss Sarah, let's not tell you that our boss has strict requirements. Before Vicin is officially listed, we must strictly supervise and control it. So I can't do this. Or wait for him to come and see what he suggests." August said dissatisfiedly, "I think your boss is too picky, right? Just a few packets of medicine. Is it necessary to be so petty?" Liang hurriedly explained, "Ms. August, you have misunderstood. Our boss is not picking, but cautious. Before our drugs are officially launched, we must strictly guard against any leakage of confidential drugs. Now, Japan, South Korea and Asia's other pharmaceutical companies have been imitating and plagiarizing our ancient prescriptions, which invisibly brought great losses to traditional medicine. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.